you have some incredible central characters that we follow and sort of learn about this region through them. How long were you filming before you realized that they were going to be the central points through which people were going to understand this area?
I was covering maybe about 10 different stories, and then I ended up naturally relating to Andre because he's really unique in the park. There's only 3 orphan carers like him, and he's also just one of the best human beings I've ever met, really. And Rodrigue, he has this he was a really interesting character as well, but we ended up working with him because SOCO agents had approached him and offered him money. And so we started working on the undercover stuff with him. I mean, he'd already been investigating SOCO himself, and then we sort of fitted in on top of that and brought undercover cameras and a sort of a central point for people to bring back evidence. And Emmanuel he runs the show out there, so he was a natural person to follow.
And then you have Melanie, who, was it important to you to have sort of an outsider perspective as one of these people that we're sort of following throughout the film?
Well, when we started, we didn't have Melanie. I met her about 6 months into filming, and I spent a day filming with some rebel soldiers one day, and she joined me. She's a very brave freelance journalist operating in the region, and during the day, she knew I was working with the park, and she suddenly said, "Oh, I know some guys you might be interested in. They work for SOCO." And, my ears were like, "What did you just say?" And so we told her about what we'd been doing because we'd spent 6 months already investigating and, said, "Would you be interested in working with us?" And she was like, "Absolutely." So, she learned how to use the undercover cameras we use and started charging ahead very much on her own and started bringing back all this ridiculous material.
For those sort of undercover sequences, I imagine there was kind of an interesting conversation because on one hand, you want her to be safe. You want her not to sort of be exposed, but at the same time, you do, I guess, want footage that's going to be usable in the final project. So how were those conversations? Like, was there a central tension there, or did it kind of naturally evolve?
We had to take security really, really seriously on this. I mean, so to such a level that Rodrigue and Melanie didn't even really know about what the other one was doing. Because, we didn't ever want anyone to ever be potentially compromised and then risk everyone else. And it wasn't just Rodrigue and Melanie. There was a lot of people that were gathering evidence. And they'd been doing it before, even before we arrived. There's some very brave fishermen and members of the civil society around, in the region who were already very concerned about what SOCO was doing. And we sort of fitted in on top of that work.